What about the cellular energy part? How do you improve the energy of the cells?
Well, that's a mitochondria issue. Your mitochondria, if we go back to our biology, that's where we make energy. It's where we make ATP. That's how our brain works. That's how we feel good. That's how we burn fat for energy, stay lean. So our mitochondria are really important. Okay, so into this subject of membranes, the mitochondria. So most cells in your body have these powerhouses where we make energy. So in that cell, we have the mitochondria, which has its own cell membrane, which is even more fragile. So this topic of omega-6 goes into the mitochondrial membrane as well. So a lot of the products that I developed pay attention to those fats that the mitochondria needs. One called cardiolipin. Cardiolipin is an omega-6 fat that is so important that when your body, intelligence in your body wants to get rid of a bad cell, it sends a signal to the cell and oxidizes the cardiolipin in the mitochondrial membrane. The cell dies like that without energy. That's how important this is. When you look at why people don't feel well today, they have some level of mitochondrial dysfunction, meaning the inability to make normal energy, the inability to burn fat for energy. So most people, whether you're fat or skinny, today in America, when you're not eating, they have trouble transitioning to burning fat as an energy source. So skinny people just start burning muscle and right away to make sugar from muscle. It's a process called gluconeogenesis. So they don't have the ability to tap into fat as energy because their mitochondria are toxic. They're broken. They're not working. So our ability to use fat at the cellular level, that's a mitochondrial issue. So, or your ability to use fat, people that go without eating. So say you went today without eating and you're like, yeah, I didn't even really get hungry. My brain didn't stop working. I didn't have any symptoms. You have good mitochondria, meaning it shifted over to fat burning. And then it made something called ketones that your brain loves. So your brain stayed normal all day, right? So I always say, if you want to test your mitochondrial health, go without eating for a day or two. Some people are going, I can't even go one meal, right? But that shift of burning sugar for energy, because your cells can only use two things for energy, sugar or fat. So when you're not eating or taking glucose or carbohydrates, which turn to glucose, it has to shift over to fat. That has to happen in your mitochondria. So a lot of the strategies that I teach on how to get your mitochondria and your cellular energy better is challenging the mitochondria. Let me explain. So by going without food for periods of time or lowering carbohydrates for periods of time, bad cells don't adapt to that stress. Good cells adapt. So by putting people in these short little fasts for periods of time where they adapt, eventually your body starts getting rid of those bad mitochondria and bad cells that don't make the adaptation, and they start forcing to make new ones. It's like exercise. I call it just that. I call it cellular mitochondrial fitness, meaning if we force your cells to use fat for energy, eventually we can get your cells doing it more and more efficiently. So we actually get your cells to make better mitochondria by stressing them. And that's a lot of strategies I teach called feast famine cycling. And so there's